Итак, друзья, добрый день, вечер всем. Это, видимо, уже некая традиция, когда мы, имея здесь в гостях прекрасных мастеров пилатеса, берем у них интервью, просто чтобы рассказать о методе больше. Это, правда, очень интересно. И сегодня у нас в гостях на этой неделе Cynthia Lochard. Это гранд-мастер первого уровня, коих в мире только 3, которые могут экзаменовать студентов, присуждать им категорию сертифицированного преподавателя Romana с Pilates. Также эти преподаватели, эти мастера проводят постдипломное образование. Ну и именно Синтия имеет огромный опыт работы в пилатесе. Она занимается с 1976 года. Она основала школу пилатеса в Австралии и прилегающих странах. В общем, опыт невероятный работы с движением, работы вместе с Романой. Поэтому, добро пожаловать. So, Cynthia, how are you doing?
I'm good.
I mean, how are you doing after the week, doing the privates, doing the CPs, taking the tests, also doing the conventions, etc., etc.?
I'm okay. I'm better now because I'm free for a few hours, a couple of days until I have to hit the studios again. But I'm good. Today was a great day.
Because
really
actually Cynthia did a great job every day from the morning to the dark, and she still have her energy. Like we were watching on you and asking how you do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm an actress. No.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I think the work gives me inspiration. The people.
Yeah, that's
it depends on the people. If you're working with really great people, then you're going to have energy. So that's what helps me
right.
through.
So we're very thankful to you and happy to see and to have you here. So I prepared 5 questions, which are very. I mean, people here in Russia are really interested in that question. The first question is, of course, about your Pilates career, how you started, then the evolution of your own Pilates method, and what you have now.
Okay. Well, I started in 1976. I was 16 years old. I was a young ballerina, and the teacher that I was training with decided that she was going to spend a lot of time and effort to try and make us the best that we could be so that we can get contracts to work with great choreographers. And so one of the connections that she had, having been with New York City Ballet, was with Romana. And so she sent a few of us to meet Romana and to hopefully continue with lessons to help us do what we were doing better, and to also help with our bodies, because at that age your body starts to change and all of that. And so being introduced to Pilates at that age was a really beneficial thing for me personally and also for my career. So that's how I started. I worked with a couple of staff members that she had that were also dancers, so that was great. And occasionally I worked with her. She was a little scary to me because I guess later, getting to know her, she just saw so much that you felt exposed around her. And I suppose when you're young, that's kind of scary. But she herself was not really scary. It just appeared that way because of how she could see you. And then I did it throughout my career for years. And it really helped me. It changed the way that I worked. It changed the energy that I had. I really find a lot of energy in Pilates, whether I'm doing it or teaching it. And I was hooked. I was saying the other day how New York City Ballet used to travel with a reformer, or at least for a short period of time they had a reformer when we went to cities in the United States. And nobody ever used it, and I always used to sneak to the back and use it because I knew how to. So that was always great. So when I couldn't get to the studio, I was fortunate to have access to using a reformer. And before the show, I used to always do a mat in the wings, which made me centered, but it also made me really comfortable with being on the stage to sort of find a little quiet corner and do my mat. So it really helped my career. And in one way, in another way, it wasn't so great because I rarely had an injury. So every time people would go off, I was always the one to replace them, besides my own schedule, because I was always there. I was strong. And it's the work that I think made me really strong. So that was really beneficial. Then I forgot about it. I moved to Australia. I tried to dance. That didn't work out for me straight away. So I decided to go back and work with Romana so that I can teach, because it was the only other thing that I really loved and knew I could do really well. So I went back to New York training to teach, and then came back to Sydney and started a studio. And that was 25 years ago. So, yeah, I know, I don't look that old. No, I'm kidding. So anyway, and then that brings me to this day in 1998. To my surprise, Romana appointed me a level 1 teacher trainer. I was already a teacher trainer. With a small group of other people. We sort of all worked together to put this program together. And we continued to work together to work out what worked and what didn't work, and just kept developing it over the years. And now I just continue to travel and do that same thing, and also work in my own studio.
So can we say that Pilates transformed a lot from the beginning to nowadays? Or it's pretty the same?
I think it's transformed a lot.
In your own way?
In my own
for
way,
your body,
my own
for your
body?
mind? Yeah.
No, I think that's exactly the same. I think the energy and the strength that it gave me when I first adapted to it is still the experience I have today, which is why I have no interest in letting it go.
So that's what I want to hear, because the second question is about your thoughts about Pilates in the world and your thoughts about what we're going to have with Pilates in the future.
Well, my hope, and I talk about this a lot with my colleagues, because we're all getting older, and I'm younger than some of my other colleagues, so it's quite an issue, I think, a point of conversation. I think that it's important to really pass down the work properly and with a certain level of passion and understanding, so that it's maintained from generation to generation. But I think now's a really important time, especially with social media. There's so many people doing Pilates, or not Pilates, but workouts that are inspired by what they think Pilates is. But there really is a small group of people who are maintaining the legacy of the true work. Now, a lot of people think that it should evolve because life and time evolves, but it works, right? It's a great system of fitness and well-being, and it works the way that it is. It doesn't need, in my opinion, to evolve. And so I think it's our responsibility to try and pass that down to the younger generation so that they can continue, they can be inspired in spite of the way that life is today with social media and technology, but they can be inspired by what they consider to be old, which is still new.
Yeah, actually
really.
Not really old.
No. And so if we can pass that message down to them, then it'll continue for more generations to come. Because I think it's an important body of work. I've seen it change and save so many lives. I know that it's brought so much to me by other people because of their gratefulness for me having shared that knowledge with them. And that's an inspiration too. And all of that just because of this body of work.
Okay, thank you. So can we say that you spend a lot of time with Romana?
I had a long period of time of my life where I was part of Romana's work and studio, but how much time I actually spent with her, I don't know. How do you measure that?
Yeah.
Like, you go to the studio, you have a lesson, you might hang around for a little while and you leave. When I started, like I said, I would see her all the time, but I only had lessons with her when the others weren't available to teach me. And so I got to experience that, but I never stopped, or I don't go back now and measure the amount of time, but
no, I mean, I'm sure it's
but
enough.
From 1976, when I met her, until her death, I have had an association with her.
I mean, I'm talking about, of course, I know that it's enough time to get some memorable moments with her.
Yeah, we had great moments. I mean, my most memorable moments of Romana is what I learned from her about life. More than the work. Of course she taught me about the work, but it was through some of the stories that she told me in our time together, like when she would come to Sydney and she would always stay at my home and we would sit and watch TV together, rugged up, or she would cook her favorite South American dishes. And she would just share stories about her life and her past. And they seemed to be well-chosen stories, because they were stories that helped me to understand my life, how to live it, and how to approach this work. So whether that was intentional or not, I don't know, but those are the things that I most appreciated and learned from her. Anyone can teach you an exercise, but not many people can inspire you and teach you about life. And she did that for me.
Yeah, great. So here in Russia we have now a lot of studios, Pilates studios that are opening, and they working maybe for a year or two, doesn't matter. So I see a lot of mistakes, but actually I want to ask you, like I'm a very experienced person, about the most common mistakes of studio owners, not in Russia, in the world. And
of any kind of Pilates, like just generally?
Yeah.
The lack of knowledge of the history, the lack of knowledge of what his work was really about. There's, like I said, there's one thing to learn an exercise or a movement, but there's another thing, it's a whole other level to really understand the intention and the essence of it. His message was very simple, and yet a little complicated, because we're complicated. So in order for us to really peel down the layers of how we've become complicated and understand the simplicity of our core, or soul, or whatever it is that you want to refer to it as, is kind of what the work is about. And most people don't have that understanding at all, from what I see. And sure, you can change the movements, you can change an order, you can change, I was going to say a piece of equipment, but I don't really agree with that. But you can change things, but if you don't have the right intention and the essence of what it is that you're trying to do, it doesn't matter what you do with it.
Yeah.
There's a big piece of it missing.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. It doesn't matter that the whole world, he wanted the whole world to do his work. But what matters is that there's so many people not really paying attention or wanting to know really about his work and understand it.
Okay, but that's why we have you.
Yeah.
Around the world.
I hope so. I hope I'm doing a good job. I hope that I'm inspiring people.
But that's why you are here for 6 years,
Yeah.
and you're still inspiring the teachers, and they still coming,
Yeah.
and they are still with us.
Good. Thank
That's
God.
a good sign.
Well, and also yourselves, right? I come once a year. You guys have to keep that energy going every day. So really, you're a big part of that too. We all are. That's the great thing about the Pilates, the true Pilates community, is that it is a community. It's like a small family of people who are like-minded and who are, for the most part, making an effort to work together.
Yeah, precisely. Precisely. So, and the last question is about your good advice, maybe one or two, a couple, doesn't matter, for Pilates teachers in Russia, because you were here for 6 years, so you know now you know not only Romana's Pilates teachers, now you meet another one. Yeah.
And I did the first year too.
The first year, the convention.
That big fitness convention.
Yeah.
Well, my advice, is that what you asked? My advice to them is to, when you do research, right? Research, ask questions. When you do read about Joe and his work, it's all out there now, right? With the internet. Years ago it wasn't. You had to have the right connections to really find material. But now everyone has access to this material. And if you do have access to the material, read it, understand it, and if what he spoke about you're not experiencing, then find a way to experience it. That's my advice. No matter who it is that gives that to you, or what school they come from, you have to find that experience. That's really my advice. Otherwise, you're just missing out on something that's quite incredible.
Yeah. So, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I don't want to say goodbye because we see
I'll
you
see
in
you in
Prague.
a couple of days.
Мы
Yes.
через пару дней все вместе улетаем в Прагу, где состоится ежегодная конференция для преподавателей Романа с Pilates, поэтому мы не прощаемся. Тем не менее, большое спасибо Синтии. So, see you in a couple of days. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.